get your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, we are without producer John Myers, unfortunately, yet again, but he promises it's getting closer. Meanwhile, Matt and I soldier on. We bring out a few more 2024 Formula One car reveals, along with a major news story coming out of Red Bull, which we'll get to a little bit later on in the show. Iowa Speedway's got a couple of things to talk about as they get ready for the 2024 racing season. They're filling out concerts, but they, maybe more importantly, have a change in leadership. Tony Stewart's got smoke coming out of his ears about the performance of SHR. We'll talk about that. Denny Hamlin talking catchphrases. Got the first NHRA All-Star call-out lineup set. Plus, they're doing some kind of preseason stuff down in Bradenton and records being set. We'll talk about that. Plus, we got more news on documentaries that are coming soon to a TV set near you. See if I can not trip over myself as we get ready to do that and so much more on this week's edition of CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Nicholson. I'm
Morning.
Steve West.
Morning.
Hope everything's going well.
It's going.
Yeah, I got you. We got ourselves some rain coming into the southeastern part of the country this weekend. Hopefully that will not be the same next weekend when they're headed down to Daytona, but judging by the track record of Daytona, we don't know.
Yeah, it'd be a little different story, but who knows?
Yeah, and as I noted last week on the show, Albert Hammond back in the 1970s came out with a song that you may or may not remember, but it was titled "It Never Rains in Southern California," which is a total lie. But if you actually listen to the song, the line is, "It never rains in Southern California, but it pours." That was very true. Because that atmospheric river that they were talking about all week long did indeed slam the LA area on Sunday, Monday, and into Tuesday. On Sunday alone, the day that the Busch Light Clash was supposed to run, that atmospheric river dumped 4 inches of rain in the LA area that day alone.
Mm-hmm.
NASCAR, I got to give them some credit. And there are a lot of people that have been complaining about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the heck you're complaining about.
Right.
Because, yeah, if NASCAR sees rain in the area, they might be willing to wait up to a certain extent and maybe delay it a day.
Mm-hmm.
But they saw this forecast, and they knew the earliest they were probably going to get this in might be Tuesday evening, probably more likely Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you know what? We got a day right now. So they got a hold of the Fox network. They got a hold of all the drivers.
Mm-hmm.
They talked to the NASCAR Mexico Series because they had to play with that too. And they talked to the LA Coliseum. Heck, they even talked to that person, whatever it is, Machine Gun Kelly, who turns out he couldn't make it.
Yeah.
They covered as many bases as they possibly could
Mm-hmm.
and put this race on to make sure that it got in.
Right.
And I heard people that sat there and said, well, I had plane tickets. I flew out on Saturday afternoon, got into my hotel, got settled in, found out they were running the race. You ever heard of the internet? They update you on things like this.
Constantly.
Maybe when you got off your plane, you should have checked in and said, what's going on? Because here's the thing. If I'm flying into LA on Saturday afternoon/evening, having already known what we knew, which was widely publicized, that all the events that were planned for Saturday, you could go and watch for free.
Yep.
I might have just gotten off the plane and gone straight to the LA Coliseum.
Yeah, all things considering that LAX is not all that far from the Coliseum.
So anyway, NASCAR made it work. They avoided staying there until not only the rain stopped, but the waters would allow the tires to stay on the asphalt. So the lineup ended up supposed to be set by the heat races, ended up being set by practice speeds alone. And unfortunately, that meant that several well-known names did not have the chance to really kind of dial in the cars, so missed out on the race. Names like Austin Dillon, Christopher Bell missed out.
Surprising.
Chris Buescher, and 3 Rookie of the Year candidates missed out. Josh Berry, Carson Hocevar, and Zane Smith. Now, I will say this, no disrespect to Carson Hocevar and Zane Smith. There was Spire. Spire's done a lot of expanding. They probably really kind of needed the practice and the heat races to dial in those cars.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Josh Berry's a little bit more surprising.
Yeah, considering he was the only SHR car to miss.
Yeah. Denny Hamlin, meanwhile, started off on the pole. That didn't last long. Ty Gibbs worked his way out front quickly, held the lead for most of the first half of the 150-lap event. On lap 75, they took a halftime break. Second half got underway. The relative calm of the first half, right out the window. More cautions. At the end, it was Denny Hamlin. He was able to get back out front, fended off Kyle Busch for his win. That's his 4th career win in the Busch Light Clash. 3 of those coming at Daytona, now 1 out there in LA. Now the question becomes, do we continue in Los Angeles? And I don't know what the answer is at this point in time.
I personally don't think it's going to continue in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting that funny feeling.
I think we thank the good Lord above that we finally seen the final race at the Coliseum.
Well, and here's the other side of it. If you want to put the Busch Light Clash in Los Angeles, fine. Slam the accelerator down on the construction project you got going on at the former Auto Club Speedway.
True. Or go to Irwindale.
Go to Irwin? Yeah.
There's
a number of great places out there.
Go to Kern County.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Kevin Harvick's Kern County.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick. Sorry, excuse me. Kern County. That would be a good short track race.
Sure.
If you've got to, and let me stress this, if you've got to have LA, which personally I don't think you've got to have LA. You haven't.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you.
From what, the late 70s, early 80s, up until 1998, you did without it.
Yeah. You think about what happened after the late not so lamented Ontario Speedway, the copy of Indianapolis Motor Speedway went down.
Riverside.
You had Riverside, which was a great road course.
Yeah, great road course.
But got plowed under for a mall. Strip mall? Regular mall.
I think you're strip mall.
Strip mall. Yeah, I mean, I get it. You'd like to be able to have the largest, or really second largest television market in the country as part of where you go.
Right.
But there's a time when you either catch fish or you cut bait and you run.
Yeah.
And I'm not so certain that we're not past the point of cutting bait.
I would agree with that. But now with shifting the days around to earlier, you've officially now set a precedent.
Yep.
You've officially now set that precedent, and you have no excuse that it can't be done, especially at tracks that have lights.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially. Okay.
Yep. Very much so.
You showed that schedule could be shifted around to where you still get both races in on the same day. And it pretty much simply the way you can say it now, we don't want to hear it if you can say, oh, TV this, TV that. You did it in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Simply put.
Agreed. Denny Hamlin wins. Kyle Busch, second. Defending champion Ryan Blaney jumped up from starting last because he had to take the champion's provisional to get in, because otherwise he would have missed it as well. Mm-hmm. He jumps all the way from 23rd to 3rd. Joey Logano 4th, then Kyle Larson. Rest of your top 10, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr., William Byron. Of course, as we all know by now, this cash grab race, no points were on the line. We're waiting for that starting next weekend at the Daytona 500. After the clash, the NASCAR Mexico Series did get their race in. Had a light rain starting to fall before it was over, but Cup Series driver Daniel Suarez, who missed out on the clash, made up for it by winning the first race of the Mexico Series in the United States. So congratulations to him.
This race was arguably the better one.
Yeah.
This was a very good race.
Yeah. And it looks a little weird. It looks kind of like something out of Talladega Nights, but with them putting stickers over there on what you would consider the passenger side of the windshield of your regular car.
Yeah.
It looked weird, but at the same time, it's effective.
You've got essentially the old Hooters Pro Cup Series cars with cup engines in them.
Mm-hmm.
They put on a good show.
They did.
I was impressed.
They did. This coming week does lead up indeed to the Super Bowl of stock car racing. Qualifying for the front row of the Great American Race going to happen Wednesday. That'll air on Fox Sports 1 and MRN Radio starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. Thursday, after the front row gets set, the rest of the Daytona 500 lineup will be set. That's through the two Blue Green Vacations dual races. That'll air on Fox Sports 1 and MRN Radio as well, starting 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time. Again, that's Thursday. Then Friday, 2024 NASCAR racing season kicks off in earnest. Craftsman Truck Series will be running the Fresh from Florida 250 at Daytona. Fox Sports 1, MRN Radio have the coverage there, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And since we'll be on the air, presumably, before all the rest of the action happens next weekend, we'll save the rest of the schedule for next weekend.
Yep.
All right. I am going to bury the lead here because last week we did put Formula One as the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And we have said that we would take the biggest story of the week and we would put it at the front. But just because we spent so much time last week, and deservedly so, talking about the Andretti Formula One management decision, I want to change things up here because it's not to say that there aren't big stories elsewhere. But yeah, arguably the biggest story probably did come out of Formula One again. I'm just going to push it a little bit further down the lineup and start off with Fox Sports 1. Show you a nice little promo card that Fox Sports has out there because they're thrilled not only to add the 2014 Cup Series champion Kevin Harvick to their broadcasting booth this season, they're going to celebrate his on-track career by debuting a new documentary this week entitled I Am Kevin Harvick. I'm going to have to catch this after the fact because, I'm sorry, I'm going to be studying closely the inside of my eyelids by the time this thing airs. But the Fox Sports 1 Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central Time, or immediately following post-race coverage of the second duel at Daytona. They are going to air this, thanks to Fox Sports, for the look at the promo card you can see right now on CRN Live on YouTube. Fox Sports says of this documentary produced by Fox Sports Films, quote, I Am Kevin Harvick exposes through an unfiltered narrative all the pivotal moments, victories, and challenges that defined Harvick's career and legacy impact like never before. Beginning with his childhood tearing up asphalt in Bakersfield, California, to his prominence in NASCAR's Premier Cup Series, this film offers a rare glimpse into Harvick's life outside of the track to reveal the man behind the public image. While renowned for being an intense and fierce competitor, this film also peels back the layers on Harvick as both a devoted family man, philanthropist, and some of his lesser-known narratives. This does give you a chance to kind of learn a little bit more about a guy who, while he's been in the public eye, I mean, he's won 60 races, he's 2014 Cup Series champion, and has done what he's done in NASCAR, obviously being the man who took over that car from the legend, Dale Earnhardt. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot we really know about him. He's been able to keep a lot of things relatively private.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No. Not at all, because that's a fine line that you got to walk, because the more you're in the public eye, the more it does tend to wreak havoc on relationships.
And your life and career in general.
Exactly. So he has done a very nice job of walking that razor-thin, fine line between keeping my private life private and allowing the fans to know enough about me to make them feel like they actually know me pretty well.
Absolutely.
I got to give him a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
His former boss, Tony Stewart, meanwhile, has been kind of unfairly blamed for all the woes at Stewart-Haas Racing in the Cup Series, specifically last year. And think about this. This was the first time in the relatively short history of Stewart-Haas Racing, because remember, it debuted for what, the 2009 season?
Yes. Yep. They formed it in 08.
And then hit the track in 09.
Yep.
First time throughout the course of a season that it didn't claim at least one win. Mm-hmm. Smoke, however, is willing to take on the idea of reforming and kind of reorganizing this Stewart-Haas Racing team. Most notable changes we've detailed here. Those include 2 new drivers, Josh Berry and Noah Gragson, taking over for Kevin Harvick, and the returning to Joe Gibbs Racing and turning to part-time Xfinity Series driver Eric Almirola. Of course, that's not it. We talked about the new spotter lineup there and all that kind of stuff. Well, Stewart says that as opposed to last year, he's not going to be terrifically patient waiting to see whether or not this team responds to those changes. He was on Sirius XM satellite radio on Tuesday, asked by host Dave Moody if the team can turn down 2023's down year into an up year in 2024, and Smoke simply responded, well, I say simply, quote, God, I hope so. We've had 2 miserable years in a row, and I'm tired of taking the blame from everybody for why the cars aren't running real good. I think the fans need a reality check and a reminder that I'm not the crew chief. I'm not the engineer. I don't dictate the setups on the cars. I give these guys the tools to do the job. We just haven't gotten it done the last couple of years. He then got to talking about the departures of Harvick and Almirola, said this, Kevin and Eric were great leaders. Nobody felt worse about the end of the year than I did with those guys moving on to the next step in their lives. But it's hard to sit there and just be too upset, because I understood when I made that decision too and why I made that decision. So you have to support them on it, but having 4 young drivers isn't something I thought I'd have. But I will say it's been a surprise and a shock, and a pleasant surprise at that. The energy these guys have brought to the race shop this off season. Now think about this. If you go into 2023, going into the 2023 season, about this time last year, and you looked at Stewart-Haas Racing's lineup, they were one of the older teams out there.
They were.
The average age of the 4 drivers last year with Harvick and Almirola in, 37. Harvick and Almirola out, Berry and Gragson in, they dropped that average down to 30.
Yeah.
That led Stewart to say, quote, I'm excited about the energy at the shop. We had kind of a rah-rah meeting, and I will say having 4 young drivers in the shop, as much as I was really nervous about it, really excited about the energy that is brought to the shop. And then, like only an owner can, he laid down a little bit of a law. Mm-hmm. Should have everybody over there doing their level best. Quote, first year with the new car, you might have an off season trying to figure out the new product. But to have that bad of a season 2 years in a row, we will not stand for that and let that be the standard. If we're not having the results that we're looking for, we're going to start making some major changes. Think about that word right there. Not just changes, major changes. Everybody knows that. Everybody understands that. It doesn't mean we got to go out and win 8 or 10 races this year, but we need to see the needle move in the right direction. We need to make progress. Now, looking at the clock on the wall, we got to do this. So we're going to take this break. When we come back, Matt and I are going to kind of go over this because there's a couple of different ways to look at this. Either this is a terrifically motivating speech on the part of Smoke, or now he's got everybody at Stewart-Haas Racing in that shop walking on eggshells, fearing for their lives and their careers if they don't get a win. Which one is it? Or is it a combo?
Stay right here for more. For more action on the Championship Racing Network.
All right. Welcome back in. Steve West, Matt Nicholson here on this Saturday morning here, 1 week away from action. Well, really less than from action in earnest starting at Daytona. God, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Feels like it's been a really long off season.
It really has.
You know, got some little football game to be played tomorrow, and then we can get past it. I don't have a dog in that hunt, I'll be really honest with you.
I don't either.
That's why I call it some little football game that's going to be played tomorrow. I don't have a dog in the hunt. I'll probably watch as much for the commercials as for any game action. But here's the thing. If it turns out to be something of a blowout, I'm not going to be afraid to turn the TV off and go to bed.
Or if I see Taylor Swift on my TV more than twice.
Well, you're going to see Taylor on your TV more than twice, so get prepared for that.
So click.
So we're talking about Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
He got on with Dave Moody on Sirius XM satellite radio earlier this week and basically laid down the law. Talked about the changes coming over. He talked about how he kind of likes having the younger crew in there. And I don't think it's a smack on Eric Almirola or Kevin Harvick. But the thing about it is, everything that we heard just last year when Eric Almirola was in the building was that the 4-car was doing its own thing and the 14, the 10, and the 41 were over on this side of the building having to do everything else. Because Kevin Harvick's setup was so vastly different from anything that Eric or Chase or Ryan ran. Now it seems like all 4 drivers seem to be a lot more in tune with each other. All 4 crew chiefs seem to be a lot more in tune with each other and more willing to work with each other, kind of like what we saw, and I can't remember the exact year, but it was back when Kurt Busch was running the 41 for Stewart Haas. And that was that 2017 or 2018? I don't know which season it was, but at Talladega, they came out and they practiced.
It was 18.
They practiced together. They were qualified right with each other. They hooked up with each other as soon as the green flag dropped, and they left everybody in the dust.
They qualified 1, 2, 3, 4. I remember.
So think about that. Then they hook up. They had it all nicely worked out as to how they were going to get all in one line, and everybody else tried to keep up with them, and nobody could.
That's the first time in a very long time, if ever, that I've seen 4 cars link up and pull away from a pack that easy.
And they could do it every time. We had a caution or we had a stage break. They'd link back up. And for a couple of laps, 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 or 4 cars would be able to keep up with them for a short period of time. And then those 4 SHR cars were gone again.
They were.
And that, I think, is kind of what Tony Stewart is seeing out of this. He's seeing much more of that teamwork aspect. But he also said, and here's the cautionary tale of it, if I'm not seeing an uptick in performance, and he's not saying necessarily it needs to be wins, but he needs to see an uptick in the average performance. And it wasn't good last year. Again, no wins. Kevin Harvick had, I think, 7 top 10s, 7 or 8. I don't know the exact stats, but it was less than 10. The other 3 drivers combined had fewer top 10s than Kevin Harvick got by himself.
Yeah.
That's how bad of a year it was at SHR last year. And that was the second year in a downturn where, yes, they got a win in 2022, but they got a couple of wins in 2022 technically, but it wasn't really that good of a year.
Let's see. 2023 stats, 6 top 5s, 14 top 10s.
For Harvick.
For Harvick alone.
Okay. There were fewer top 10s out of the other 3 drivers combined, if I heard it correctly. Or they only had 1 more than Kevin Harvick. I forget what it was, but it was right in that area.
Okay. Now it's going to want to be slow loading.
Well, sure.
Of course.
Well, sure. While he's looking that up, either way, Tony Stewart knows there needs to be an uptick in performance.
Sure.
And he also understands this. His name is above the door. And it's the first one of the 2 that's above the door. It is Stewart Haas Racing. It is Tony Stewart and Gene Haas's racing team. And everyone will sit there and say, well, he spent way too much time dealing with the NHRA and way too much time staying away from it, and he needs to be much more involved and forget all that other stuff. No. Tony Stewart's a racer's racer. He understands something that Joe Gibbs understood. You go out and you find the right people that are going to be able to do the job, and you trust them to do the job. And you step in when they can't do the job anymore. And because after 2 years, it seems like that the set that they had was not doing the job, he's stepping in. But no, he can't be there every single day. He does have other obligations, yes. Does that mean that he's ignoring the Cup Series organization? No. Not at all. We've mentioned here on this show that both Matt and I are New England Patriots fans. Talk about having a bad time.
Yeah.
Legacy head coach gone. One of the biggest salary cap availabilities going into next year as possible, and all I can hear is Robert Kraft needs to sell the New England Patriots because he's not willing to go out and spend any money. I'm sorry.
Have you been to Gillette Stadium here lately?
Have you looked at what the New England Patriots were before Robert Kraft bought the team and what they've been since he bought the team? I want to say a word that I can't say on the air. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Give the owner, who knows that the buck stops here on my desk, the chance to make things right. And the same thing goes for Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart knows that the buck stops with him. Give him the chance to make it right. Give him the chance to turn the ship around. It's a 4-car operation. This isn't one of those things where you're going to do a pirouette like a ballerina. This is like trying to turn the Titanic. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, no kidding.
But you have to give him the time. He knows it. He knows the performance isn't up to his own par, and he's already started to work to make changes. And I'll say this. Despite what we saw out of Josh Berry at the Busch Light Clash, next weekend on this show, Matt and I are going to do bold predictions. We're going to do one for each of NASCAR's top 3 series. We're going to do one for Cup. We're going to do one for Xfinity. We're going to do one for trucks. I'm going to go ahead and give you a preview of mine right now. I'll have another one next week, but I'm going to say it right now. And I'm saying this, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm a Tony Stewart fan, have been since his rookie year in 1999. But I'm not going at this with my fan hat on. I'm going with it based on what I have seen and what I have heard coming out of the SHR camp and Tony Stewart. That team's going to win at least 5 races this year.
I'm not going to say that's out of the realm of possibility.
To go from, 2 wins in 2022? One with Briscoe and one with Harvick, if I remember right?
3. Harvick won 2. He won back 2. He won a back-to-back event. He won
That's
Michigan,
right.
Michigan, and Richmond.
Okay, so they won 3 races with 2 drivers. To 0 last year. An extremely questionable performance. But I'm saying that Tony Stewart has not only lit a fire, he's lit a rocket under the butts of everybody sitting up there in that shop in Concord, North Carolina.
I would say that's a fair assessment. But Harvick had the 14 top 10s. The stats I was looking up.
Okay.
Briscoe had 8. Almirola had 5. Crease had 2.
Oh, the numbers I was thinking was top 5s. I'm sorry. That's right. You're on top 10s.
I'm
sorry. That's my fault. That's my bad.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
They were...
I conflated top 5s with top
3
10s.
drivers had 1 more top 10 than Kevin Harvick had combined.
That's not good, people.
No.
That's not good. Either way you look at it, it's not good.
But I think with what we've been saying and what you're talking about, you're going to see Josh Berry and Gregson have a lot more leeway because Berry's in a straight-up rookie year. Even though he's got starts in these cars,
Sure.
he's in a full-fledged bona fide rookie year.
And things have changed over here as well.
Things have changed.
I mean, he's been in the Hendrick pipeline for a long time because, let's face it, Junior Motorsports is a Hendrick farm team.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, and that's why he was the one that was tabbed to fill in so much last year at Hendrick Motorsports. Now he's gone from Chevrolet to Ford. And Stewart Haas Racing it's different from Hendrick Motorsports. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
True.
It's not necessarily a good thing either. It just is what it is.
True.
So he's going to have those growing pains. Noah Gragson's got a lot of growing up to do.
And Gregson, that's what I was saying. Gregson is He's in a reset year.
Yes.
He's in a
very much so.
Full-scale reset year. So
now, I like what he said earlier.
Yeah.
Now, it sounded like a prepared statement, but again, he's saying the right things. I feel like I learned a lot from last year. I'm ready to go at it with a clean slate.
Yeah.
Does it sound like a prepared statement? Sure, it does. But at least he's saying those things, and he looks earnest in saying it.
Yeah.
It's not like he's staring at the camera with this sarcastic look on his face when he says it. Mm-hmm. It seems like he means those words, but he just had some professional work them up for him.
Mm-hmm. See, Tony had his hands a little bit more on it in 22.
Yeah.
In my opinion, his hands were a little bit more off of it in 23.
And that's probably true to a certain extent.
You got to look at what happened when you can say he went hands off.
But how hands-on does he need to be?
That's a question that I can't answer yet.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
Nobody can really answer but him and the people that are in the walls up there at SHR.
The two people that can most answer that question are Tony Stewart and the man who is day-to-day running that organization, Greg Zipadelli.
And with the day-to-day operations of that organization, I hate to say it, but he's probably public enemy number one in the crosshairs.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably got the hottest chair at SHR. And that's saying a lot, considering the fact that Tony and Greg's relationship goes back
to 99.
To 1999.
Yeah, It was really an eye-opener to me when the Cup cars were just flat as all get out, but the Xfinity team ran very well week in and week out.
Yeah. And especially considering what they did at the end of the year.
Yeah. So, but Briscoe and Richard Boswell, it's their time to shine this year. Ryan Preece and Chad Johnson, I think they're right there on the same page.
Yeah. Ryan is very, very impressive on short tracks. Mm-hmm. That's why he performed. And if it hadn't been for him getting bumped out of the way, he probably would have had a top 10 finish at the Busch Light Clash last week, like he did last year. He performs well at Martinsville. I mean, think about how many he led practically the entire first stage at Martinsville in the fall. Mm-hmm. You know, he runs very well on short tracks. What Ryan needs to do is be able to have that kind of expand out, not necessarily to the super speedways, because again, there's teamwork that's going to be involved in that.
Sure.
But it needs to expand out to the Charlottes, the Kansases, the Texases, the Las Vegases, those 1.5 mile tracks. Yep. That's where he needs to shore himself up.
All right. So now I will throw out a teaser bold prediction.
Yeah, because we'll have different ones next week.
And this is a little bit of a foreshadowing of the next team we're going to talk about. 2311 Racing will equal Joe Gibbs Racing in wins.
Ooh. Hello. I like that, though. I really do.
They will equal Joe Gibbs Racing in total team wins.
Because I don't know if you watched the NASCAR documentary on Netflix. I know you did.
I've cleaned it from start to finish.
As for our listeners and our viewers on CRN Live on YouTube, I watched it in 2 days.
I had it watched in one night.
Yeah, I watched it in 2 days. I had other things that I had to do. I got the first 2 episodes in, and then I'm like, this is good. Dang it, I wish I could continue it. I couldn't. I had to go to the next day. Wiped out all 3 of the next ones.
Hey, and if you guys look really, really carefully, you'll see a cameo of 2 people you know real close.
Yeah, look for that little building called This Is Talladega, and you can see us. We actually do. We're visible.
Yep.
That shop that they're building right off of I-85 that they're calling Airspeed, which I like.
It's off of 77.
Is it 77? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right off the interstate. They're calling it Airspeed. Wow. Floored me how nice that shop is.
Huge.
Floored me how nice that shop is. It is a fantastic state-of-the-art facility. And this team is ready to fly. You think about their performance last year, they were doing very good. They were running up front. They were just missing out on wins for both the 23 and the 45. And Reddick had 2 wins?
2.
Reddick had a couple of wins. He missed out on probably a handful of others. And Bubba Wallace is pretty much the same way. I don't care whether you like him or not. Here's the truth of the matter. Bubba Wallace has turned into a pretty good race driver.
He's definitely evolved.
If you can get your emotions out of it and just look at it and look at his stats, you'll start to realize he's become a pretty good race driver.
Let the stats and the performance speak for itself.
Yeah. And then having the ability to add in Legacy MC and that much more information, which we know is all shared amongst the Toyota teams, all that's going to do is help.
See, I was catching on to the verbiage Denny Hamlin was using when he was on that episode talking about the shop.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't directly say it, but I could pick up on what he was kind of hinting at, if you ask me. The money that Jordan took from the sale when he sold his majority stake in the Hornets, he took that money and reinvested it back in the team, and look what you get.
Yep. It's going to be big. It's going to be big. It's going to be a big year. The team that he was just mentioning, though, Joe Gibbs Racing, that legacy, no pun intended, Toyota team, they got some sponsorship stuff talking about, and we'll also talk about Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin dropped a bombshell this week on his podcast, Actions Detrimental. We'll talk about that and turn our attention to the Xfinity Series when we come back right here on CRN.
Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
As we come back, Steve West, Matt Nicholson with you again here at CRN. This should come as no surprise to anyone. Joe Gibbs Racing, the sponsor that helped Joe Gibbs get that fledgling race team up and running 33 years ago, is continuing with him. Interstate Batteries is back. This will mark 33 years together at Joe Gibbs Racing. The company no longer a primary sponsor for an entire year like they used to be, but they're going to be an associate sponsor on all four JGR entries for the entire year and will also be involved in the Xfinity operation. They will appear as a primary for kind of a new high here for the last few years. 11 races in the Cup Series across the 4 JGR Cup cars. There'll be primary for Christopher Bell at next weekend's Daytona 500. You can get a look at how the cars are going to look right now on CRN Live on YouTube. Thanks to Joe Gibbs Racing for that. Now, Denny Hamlin will carry the Interstate Batteries colors twice this year, but Martin Truex Jr. only gets it once. The rest will be split between Bell and Ty Gibbs. What we do know is this. In addition to the Daytona 500, Christopher Bell, they'll be on Ty Gibbs' hood for the Coca-Cola 600, and they'll be back on Bell's car for championship weekend at Phoenix. The rest of it, we'll just wait and see how it comes about.
I saw the breakdown of it somebody shared.
I don't know. Is this that important, truth be told? I mean, but here's the thing. They're on some tentpole races. You know, those big flagship, what we call crown jewel races, Daytona 500, Coca-Cola 600, and so on.
Yeah.
And they get on there on championship weekend, and it does seem like Interstate Battery seems to be a little bit more involved now than what they have been the last couple of years. And that's good news between Interstate and Joe Gibbs Racing.
Oh, for sure.
So we'll give them that.
Here it is.
Okay.
Co-primary for 11 races at JGR, 4 with Christopher Bell, Daytona 500, Vegas 1, Daytona 2, Phoenix 2.
Okay. Okay, so they're on Bell for the last race of the regular season and for championship week.
Oh, yeah. All right. 4 with Ty Gibbs.
Oh, I'm sorry. Daytona's now this year their first race of the playoffs with that weird schedule. Isn't that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, Atlanta is. Atlanta's the first race of the playoffs. Daytona is the next to the last race before the Southern 500. If I remember right.
Okay.
Something like that.
It's a weird year because of the Olympics. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, it's crazy. Ty Gibbs has got Texas, Charlotte, Nashville, and the Roval. Hamlin has got it at Coda and Iowa. And Truex Jr. has got it at Pocono.
Okay. There you go. Speaking of Hamlin, he got onto his podcast Actions Detrimental this week and said that his use of the phrase that he's uttered exactly twice. Once last year after the Charlotte race, and again right after claiming the Busch Light clash last weekend, is over. The phrase is, of course, "I just beat your favorite driver," looking at the crowd booing him before adding, quote, "all of them."
Again.
Yeah. He said that the phrase, which was actually quite the topic of conversation in the Netflix documentary, also got the attention of his father, who after the clash and the post-race coverage got a hold of his son and said he probably needed to stop using it. The younger Hamlin decided his father might be right, so he says it is officially retired.
When his dad made that appearance on Pure Speed, the documentary, and I don't say this in a bad way, he wasn't what I pictured that I thought he was.
He's kind of a backwoods good old boy, isn't he?
Definitely. He's the backwoods good old boy. You'd be working on your dirt car underneath the 2 pine trees in your backyard.
Yeah.
Kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Denny Hamlin comes across as a guy who probably grew up in and around Richmond. His dad looks like somebody who grew up in the hills of the Shenandoah Valley.
There you are. There you are.
I mean, I don't mean any disrespect. I have no problem with that. I spent 10 years in the Shenandoah Valley. I enjoyed most of it. But yeah, there are some people up there that don't really spend a whole lot of time in town.
For sure.
And what I mean by in town is by going to a town like Luray, thinking that's going to the big city. Dude, when I moved to Luray, Virginia in 1987, the town had less than 10,000 people in it, and it was the county seat of Page County, Virginia. Mm-hmm. That's going to the city for some people up there.
Yeah.
Okay? Denny's dad kind of looks like that guy. But you want to talk about salt of the earth. They're good people. Xfinity Series news, Sam Hunt Racing has announced Chris Bowen is going to be the man tasked with being the crew chief for the star car of that organization, the number 26 Toyota Supra. It'll feature several drivers this coming year. One of them, Sage Karam. Karam will be in the car next weekend when they open the season at Daytona. We know that Jeffrey Earnhardt's going to be in the car in Atlanta. We know Corey Heim will take over the car when it heads to Vegas. That's just 3 of them. Now, you haven't had a whole lot of experience as a crew chief, but you know a little bit about it. How difficult is it to have to understand that in your first 3 races of the year, you're going to have 3 distinct personalities and you have to set that car up differently for each of them? Probably.
Yeah. As a crew chief, that would make me want to beat not just my forehead, but my whole body through a brick wall, because you're going to have 3 different, well, Well, yeah, you might as well say Daytona because Daytona's kind of that up and down. Handling is not as big of a factor as it is at the other tracks. But you got 3 different drivers with 3 different driving styles and 3 different feels. You can't successfully build a solid notebook for your car and your team with 3 different feels and 3 different styles. You can't.
I have a lot of respect for Chris Bowen, and at the same time, kind of feel sorry for him. I mean, the Star Car thing it's a big task to take on. It's a big task to take on. A couple of other notes that I found out just this morning about Xfinity Series drivers. SS Greenlight Racing has tapped Daniel Suarez to pilot their number 14 Chevrolet SS with sponsorship from Wendy's. By the way, you say 14. I don't remember them with a 14. This is actually the same car as last year's 08 car. It's simply with a number change. Okay.
Yep. All right. And then more Xfinity news, too.
Yeah.
Sorry. Got released yesterday that attempting his Xfinity Series debut in the Joey Gase number 35 Ford Mustang will be Frankie Muniz.
Knock him in the middle himself.
Stepping up from ARCA all the way to Xfinity, which is questionable if you ask me, but
it is to a certain extent.
To an extent.
But I'll ask this question, because this is something that Haley Deegan has kind of hinted towards.
Mm-hmm.
That she feels like the Xfinity Series is more like the ARCA Menard Series, and she's going to be more comfortable there, as opposed to her time in trucks.
To a degree, I can see that.
Okay.
To a degree, I can see that.
So there may be something there.
Yes, because you got the cars with the wheelbases that are real similar and the lower center of gravity and the lower greenhouse, which you're not punching as huge of a hole in the air as the trucks are because the trucks are so aero dependent because you're punching a giant hole in the air.
Yeah.
So the 35 car has the owner points from the 24 car of Sam Hunt last year.
Okay.
So he's easily in.
He's in.
It's just that Frankie, you thought ARCA at Daytona and Talladega was wild. You're about to have an eye opener there, bud.
Well, and I'll say that, yes, but I'll also say this. We were kind of looking sideways at him last year running full-time ARCA. For a while there, he was leading the ARCA Menards points. He acquitted himself very nicely. And I'm not saying he's going to be a threat to win. Would I be terrifically surprised? No. Because, again, anything at Daytona and Talladega, anything can happen.
Yeah, true. And with the limited schedule he's going to run in Xfinity for this coming year, there's some observations I got on this. One, I'm really surprised with him being under the Ford banner and one of the Ford pipeline drivers now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm really surprised Ford does not have him in a more upper tiered vehicle, whether it be trucks or even Xfinity.
Yeah.
Upper tier. You could put him in I would have put him in a Ryan Seed car before I would have put him in this one. Sorry, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I would have put him in a Ryan Seed car because they're more consistent and they won last year. 2, why is he not running some truck races with ThorSport in that 5th truck? If you're gonna,
another good question.
And the image of the car they released with him driving is the Ford Performance Dark Horse layout on the car.
Yeah.
So I'm really surprised Ford didn't put him in a more upper echelon car. Let's word it that way. But secondly, I'm gonna hold to. I'm gonna hold to. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna hold to.
Okay.
He's got a lot of learning to do getting into these much higher horsepower cars.
Yeah. He's gone from a frying pan into a fire. There's no doubt about
it. My same analogy that he just used, frying pan to a fire, you're going from a match to a blowtorch.
There you go. Another announcement there. DGM Racing says that they've tapped Natalie Decker to climb into their 36 Chevy sponsor Amped Fitness. MBM Motorsports has turned to NASCAR veteran David Starr to pilot the number 66 Chevy sponsorship for Daytona coming from Green Light Performance Products. David Starr's not a bad call. He's going to take care of the equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Natalie Decker's an interesting choice.
It's money being brought to the team. But I want to publicly say this on these airways and get it out before we go to the second half of the show. I saw it shared from someone that I know of Natalie Decker on social media opening her eyes and chirping back at people that chirp at her just because she feels threatened, and they're just like, what are you doing?
Get a thicker skin, Natalie.
Get thicker skin. So
you're in the public eye right now. And here's the thing about it. You, Haley Deegan, Tony Breidinger, all the ladies who are in whatever level of NASCAR that you're in, ARCA, trucks, Xfinity, doesn't matter. You got a white hot spotlight on you.
Sure.
And if you're not performing, that white hot spotlight will make you sweat.
So now she's going to take up a challenge of a fan going to race go-karts at K1 Speed in Concord.
Yeah.
Oh, if I beat you, you got to stop talking about me on social media.
What if you lose?
To which this guy that challenged her races late models and go-karts in Carolina. So the odds of him winning are pretty high.
You know, there are a lot of people in this college football crazy state that wonder why when Auburn will go play Troy, Auburn will go play Samford, Auburn will go play South Alabama or whoever, that Alabama will not. They won't play UAB. That's the big question mark. Why won't Alabama play UAB? And I don't mean any disrespect to UAB. I love UAB. I want UAB to be a highly successful team in the AAC. Because for me, it shines a good light on the city that I live in and around.
Oh, you're speaking about that, the basketball program, they're putting a good light on the city right now.
Absolutely.
Climbing the ladder.
And I want the football team to do the exact same thing. I want them to be a regular bowl participant. Do I think they'll ever compete for a national championship? No, they're not in the right conference. Okay? And that's not UAB's fault. It's just the AAC is Group of 5, not Power 5, which is now Power 4 because the Pac-12 doesn't exist.
Yeah, you know, you're putting that light on them playing in-state people like they're doing. For crying out loud, UAB is doing a home-and-home with Jacksonville State.
Yeah, but here's the flip side, okay? What benefit is there for Alabama to play UAB? Now think about this for a minute. Yes, it does give great publicity in-state. But if Alabama slaughters UAB, everyone goes, well, they were supposed to. But if UAB jumps up like they did against Nick Saban's team in LSU and they beat Alabama, there's nothing good for the Alabama Crimson Tide that comes out of that. It benefits Alabama not at all to play UAB. Zero. Nil, none, nothing. Go back and watch, and I love this documentary series that ESPN Films did about the SEC football, the history of SEC football. Watch that first episode. When SEC football began, back before the Southeastern Conference was even thought of, and Alabama and Auburn were just starting their football programs.
Right.
Auburn highly outclassed Alabama.
By a long ways.
And they mentioned during that time that they were partially more than willing to give that 40-year break in the Alabama-Auburn rivalry because Auburn felt like it benefited them not at all to play Alabama. Think about that. Think about that rivalry now. One of, if not the best, most antagonistic is probably the best word I can think of. College football rivalries out there right now. But you go 130 years ago and Auburn's sitting there going, we don't get a benefit from playing Alabama. Because if we play Alabama and they beat us, it confers legitimacy on Alabama. Why would we want to do that? Fast forward 130 years, give or take. Alabama UAB. That's the way it goes. Tell you what, let's go ahead and take this break here. We'll transfer our attention from Xfinity over to the Craftsman Truck Series. This whole GMS Racing shutting things down caused massive waves through the rest, certainly of the Chevrolet camp. And it's caused a whole lot of drivers to change around, and it's caused teams to actually get better equipment than what they had previously. We got another move coming from the death of GMS when we get back.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Tired of sitting in the dark? See what's happening with the Coosa Valley Electric Outage Viewer app. Go to CoosaValleyEC.com for more details.
Hi, this is Vernon Thomas, General Manager, Sonny King Toyota. February is a month of love, and you're going to love what we got coming. RAV4s on the ground, we have 30 available. Camrys, Corollas, the Grand Highlander. We have special interest rates as low as 2.75% on select vehicles. And the all-new 2024 Toyota Tacoma, it's here, it's ready, it's now. Where you going to get all this love? At the only place, the all-new Sonny King Toyota.
Fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. Talking Craftsman Truck Series news now here as we kick off hour number 2 with Steve West and Matt Nicholson. Rajah Caruth making his full-time debut in the Craftsman Truck Series last year. He was driving for GMS Racing in the number 24, but as we all know, GMS Racing is no longer, and that left Caruth without a ride. Now, for a while there, we were thinking he might get an Xfinity Series ride. Turns out his 2024 ride is back in the Truck Series as he moves over to pilot the number 71 Chevy Silverado for Spire Motorsports on a full-time basis with Chad Walter as his crew chief. Chad Walter was his crew chief at GMS, so he makes the move with him. Caruth raced part-time in both Truck and Xfinity in 2022. Last year, full-time in trucks, finished with 4 top 10s and was 16th in the final points for the year. He often sported the Wendell Scott Foundation on the truck for at least 10 races this year. He's going to get sponsorship from no less than HendrickCars.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new farm team in the Truck Series for Hendrick Motorsports.
Yep, pretty much right. Caruth is set to team with Chase Purdy as the 2 full-time drivers for Spire in their first year of full-time Truck Series competition. A third truck, the number 7, Purdy's going to drive the 77?
77.
Thank you. The third truck, the number 7, will be entered in several races among the drivers that are expected to climb behind the wheel of that. Where have we heard this before? Kyle Busch. You know, the guy who they bought the Truck Series operation from?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, he's going to get back into a truck and run his maximum 5 races this year. Shocker. Not. Another picture for you here, and this is a bright truck. Team co-owner and driver Spencer Boyd set to go full bore in his new venture, Freedom Racing Enterprises, using the number 76 on the Chevy Silverado that he's going to pilot. He's also noting he's signed a new NASCAR sponsor for the season opener at Daytona. It is Tibbetts Lumber. The company touts itself as one of the largest independently owned lumber and building companies in the southeastern United States. We thank Freedom Racing Enterprises for the look that you can see right now on CRN Live on YouTube. Tibbetts is a company headquartered out of Tampa, Florida, 11 locations in the state. Freedom Racing Enterprises, as we detailed a few weeks ago, a new team headed by Boyd and helped by NASCAR championship winning crew chief Jeff Hammond. You know, that guy who helped Darrell Waltrip win a couple of titles back in the 1980s.
Yeah, that fella.
That guy. Not a bad helper.
No.
Cup Series driver Corey LaJoie going to help out his Cup Series operation by getting into one of their Craftsman Truck Series entries for the season opener at Daytona. That's right, that number 7 that we were just talking about, Corey LaJoie is going to pilot it at Daytona. Brian Patty is going to be calling the shots as the crew chief, sponsorship from Blue Green Vacations. That continues a partnership with Spire that goes back 4 years now. LaJoie also raced in the 2023 season opener at Daytona. He got out front, actually. After starting 5th, he ultimately led 19 laps. That was the race high for the Truck Series event at Daytona last year, but when the race got shortened due to rain, he was in a bad spot. He ended up finishing 23rd. I think he would have done better if we'd gotten a full race. Nice Motorsports going to take their number 45 truck, turn it into a star truck this year. They've announced a quartet of drivers planned to drive it. Among them, Ross Chastain, Cup Series driver. Along with Johnny Sauter, Caden Honeycutt, and Connor Mosack, Phil Gould gets the job as the crew chief as they shoot for an owner's title. Sauter set to pilot the truck this Friday night to open up the season at Daytona. Chastain set to drive it at Coda, Darlington, North Wilkesboro, Pocono, and again at Indy Raceway Park. And one final note here in the Truck Series with 2024 Cup Series Rookie of the Year Zane Smith made the jump from 2 Cup straight from the Truck Series, is still going to run in the Craftsman Truck Series, having come to terms on a 4-race deal with McAnally Hilgeman Racing. He's going to pilot their number 91 Chevy in at least 4 races, sponsorship coming from a company called Instacoat Premium Products. So there you go. Now you are up to date. There. NASCAR continues to kind of spread out here. You got NASCAR's Cup Series and all the other series that are here in the U.S. You got NASCAR Canada, Pinty Series. NASCAR Mexico Series, NASCAR Brazil Series, the Whelen Euro Series, and now we're getting something called NASCAR Regional, which kind of takes some of the lesser series under the Craftsman Truck Series ladder here in the U.S. and kind of puts them together in a way. This will include the ARCA Menards East and West, Whelen Modified Tour, Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series, and taking it and switching it up from a prior program that was called NASCAR Roots into NASCAR Regional. Ben Kennedy's NASCAR's senior VP of Racing Development and Strategy said of this, quote, NASCAR stands on a foundation built by local short tracks and our touring series, and we couldn't be more excited to launch the NASCAR Regional brand and platform to highlight these important series. Their history runs deep. The continued growth of these series is vital to NASCAR's success. This update better positions NASCAR to grow awareness around these series for many years to come. You think about it, we don't generally hear about anything below ARCA as a general rule.
Majority of the time, yeah.
So it's not a bad thing that they're actually trying to highlight them, but I'm not really sure exactly how that highlighting is going to take place because they haven't detailed that.
I personally think reason being is because of how one Kevin Harvick, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Justin Marks, and Jeff Burton have taken the Cars Regional Late Model Series,
which is not part of NASCAR,
and have absolutely exploded it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's going West Coast.
Right.
I think they had to do something. Their card was forced to stay on par with that because the popularity of the Cars Tour Series is rivaling, if not slightly above, all of these series underneath the regional banner.
Yeah. And I might even include ARCA in that. with all due respect to the
I'm
ARCA
including ARCA.
Menard series.
I'm including ARCA in that.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to watch how this manifests itself as to how NASCAR is planning on giving these guys more of a spotlight.
I'm going to be interested for this weekend's ARCA Menard Series race specifically at Daytona.
Sure.
Because there are 50 cars on the entry list.
Sorry, they're not all going to start, boys and girls.
They're only starting 40. 10 are going home.
Ouch. Iowa Speedway, first of two times we're going to talk about them during this show. They've got themselves a new president as the short track prepares to host the Cup Series for the first time in its history. Eric Peterson moves to Iowa from pretty much the same position at Kansas, takes over for David Hyatt, who is now NASCAR's West Region Senior Director for Corporate Sales, amongst other titles, which, how that fits on his business card, I don't know. This is going to be interesting, but I will say this. This is a benefit to Iowa because this is a guy who's dedicated to Iowa Speedway as opposed to having, well, yeah, I'm the Iowa track president, but then again, I got to do all this other stuff for NASCAR.
Yes.
This is a benefit to Iowa.
That will excel it for sure.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. Keith, who's been on with us on CRN Live on YouTube, has commented he's looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. You know, I got some friends who live in Des Moines. Newton, Iowa's, 30, 40 miles just outside of Des Moines.
Something like that.
I might have to try and convince my wife that we need to go see them and also go see a race. It's a working vacation, honey. It's a working vacation.
See DeltaAirlines.com.
Yeah, or somebody up there that goes to Des Moines. Dale Earnhardt Jr. dropped some pretty big and somewhat interesting news on his most recent Dale Jr. Download podcast. He's currently not in contract with NBC Sports. Junior's arguably been the face of NBC USA portion of the Cup Series television schedule, but he did say the two sides are talking, noting this, quote, "My contract with NBC is up. It was up at the end of last year. I'm currently working through what it looks like for me. I definitely love being in the broadcast booth. I want to continue doing that. We've had some great conversations with all of NASCAR's TV partners. My love and my home and my love is at NBC, and I'd love to be back with them, so we'll see where it goes. But right now, I really don't have a job in terms of broadcasting." Right now, I'll tell you this right here, right now. If somebody at the CW network is not ringing the phone off the proverbial hook trying to get a hold of Dale Jr. to come and headline their Xfinity Series broadcasts beginning next year, they're out of their minds.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
You want to talk about a coup? Go get the Xfinity Series solely on your network, CW, and get Dale Jr. You'll get eyeballs.
And then
You'll get eyeballs.
And then some.
Then there was this. We don't really know how this might affect NASCAR, but right now, Disney, who is the owners of ABC, ESPN, and the whole ESPN family of networks, Warner Brothers, who own TBS and TNT and their sports entities, and Fox Sports, have announced a joint venture that will offer a sports-centric streaming service soon. The service will cover sports across all of those entities, ABC, ESPN, and in ESPN Plus. All the Fox Sports offerings and sports coverage that comes from TBS, TNT, True TV, and something called BTN.
Big Ten Network.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. This joint venture does not include either CBS or NBC. And what that means is that there are several sports entities, big and small, that are not included or only partially included in this particular venture. The biggest brand in the United States is the National Football League, which, yes, is on Fox, but it's also on CBS, and it's got Sunday Night Football on NBC. So you only get the Fox and Monday Night Football, which shows up on ESPN.
Right.
And let's not forget, NASCAR's second half is on NBC this year, and then next year, when the Xfinity Series, as we just noted, moves to the CW, that's also not included in this joint venture at this time. So details on when this might debut and exactly what the pricing service and how all this is going to break down, we don't know. All of this stuff is yet to come. We'll find out.
Oh, boy.
And then you get a series of 4 pictures here.
Yeah.
And we've heard mixed reviews. Now, I'll say this. Change comes difficult for a lot of people. And in this day and age, when we've got the internet and we've got social media, and I don't care what you're on, it could be Facebook, could be Twix, Twitter X, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is that you can be on and comment on. There are people that have snap reactions and judgments.
Yep.
But I'll also note this. As much as I love the old logo, this one does clean it up a little bit, but Talladega, the home track for producer John, Matt, and I, debuted new logos, 4 of them, specifically for the 2024 season. Track president Brian Crichton, unveiling the new look, said that the logo is meant to respect the track's history and its spirit. It's a simple black background. This is the main one. The black background with gray highlights that show the outline of the 2.66-mile tri-oval. Red lettering for Talladega, white lettering for Superspeedway. That is your main or primary logo. That's the one that you're going to see all over on the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. It's on the big white sign as you turn off of Speedway Boulevard into the main entrance and so on. Okay, you can see it right there. And that's going to be the one where Matt and myself and all of the other people either have already gotten or will get new shirts with that logo right there. That's the primary logo. There are alternate logos, okay? But they all kind of feature the same thing. The colors are kind of a throwback to the original Alabama International Motor Speedway logo, which was at that time, and sorry I don't have a picture of it. I should have gotten one. Red letters over a red outline of the track, and then in black letters, Talladega, Alabama. That was on a white background. That first logo was used from the beginning of the track in 1969 until 1989. The logo unveiled yesterday is now the 4th logo in the track's storied history, replaces the one used for the last 2 decades. Now, you may have noted that the A's in Talladega are all kind of stylized, for lack of a better term. It's kind of a visual metaphor, according to track president Brian Crichton. He said to kind of show off that razor-thin margin that so often determines the outcome of the races there. And I hadn't thought about that, but that's actually a pretty interesting little note.
Agreed.
Now, as you look on CRN Live on YouTube, and if you don't have the ability to do it now, I would invite you to do it later and go into hour number 2 of the broadcast and start looking at these. So you've got those 2 logos, the main one, which has the track outline, black background and that, and then you've got this one, which is the simple white background with red Talladega, black Superspeedway. Then there are 2 that show the outline of the state of Alabama. One which simply says Dega, which that makes sense because, let's face it, if you don't call it Talladega, you call it Dega. I get it. And then there's one with a big red star on a black outline of the state of Alabama. There's the Dega one right there. There's that stylized A again. And then there's one that's just got a star right where Talladega Superspeedway is. I kind of like those. Those, if it were me, and I'm not in charge of doing the shirts, Russell, Jenna, but if it were me, I would take either one of those 2, probably preferably that one right there with the star right where Talladega is, and I'd make a small patch and I'd put it on one of the sleeves.
That would be my vote too. Or either the way some shirts are nowadays, back underneath where the collar is.
Yeah, you can put it right there.
Put a small one right there.
Yeah.
That would work just as good too.
Yeah. This has gotten mixed reaction.
Quite a bit.
Okay. I debuted the main logo on mine. Some people automatically came out and said, nope, don't like it at all. I had another person said it's growing on me. And a third person said it's nice, it's clean. And it is. It's very clean. I mean, if you look at look at the previous logo, there's a lot going on. But nobody else had anything like the old logo.
I saw it. I saw this quote about it. It was, somebody said this, arguably, and they used that in very large words, just a very large letter in the start. Arguably the most identifiable track logo in motorsports.
Yeah, arguably.
Is now gone.
Yeah.
I'm not disputing the cleaned up part. Color scheme.
Don't have a problem with the color scheme.
I don't have a problem with the color scheme. I'll just say it this way. It's going to have to grow on me a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, I'm like,
yeah. I mean, I have worked, and Matt Coulter knows this better than I. Because Matt Coulter's worked under that logo since it debuted. He was there before this logo debuted. He started working there back when it was still Alabama International Motor Speedway. Not trying to aid you or anything like that there, Matt, but still. He's worked under it its entire thing. My entire time at Talladega has been under the logo that was in effect as of last year. And I love it.
It started in 1998.
I love that logo. Don't get me wrong. Love that logo. Crichton said that he got some input from a guy who formerly was highly involved at Talladega, NASCAR Vice Chairman Mike Helton, along with Hall of Fame drivers Donnie Allison and Dale Earnhardt Jr., who all helped set the guidelines of this logo and helped kind of shape it. And all the old signage was either already down as the press conference happened on Thursday or will come down soon, with the new logo signs already being put in place all around the facility, including in Ruoff Mortgage Victory Lane and the flag stand, along with the logo going up on all the retaining walls. And that changes. It's fully invested. We've said this here before. And this is just a logo. I get it. It doesn't change the personality of Talladega Superspeedway.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
Still
not.
going to have the big one on the boulevard. Still going to have the concerts on Saturday night in the infield. We're still going to have the big one. Yeah. It's still Talladega. It's still the biggest, baddest track in all the land. But you do kind of wonder, why are we changing it? Well, again, been in effect since 1998. Sooner or later, some things will have to change. But are you making change just for change's sake? In this case,
True.
I think they were I think they've been thinking about this for a number of years.
I think probably so. It's just it's just got to grow on me because 1998 when that logo come out, I was 13.
You grew up with it, really?
Yeah, I all but grew up with it. Yeah. What logo change? What I would have liked to have seen. If you do something like that, do a modernized version of the Talladega AL logo. The old gold and black and white Talladega Superspeedway logo.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Modernize that right there, and then bring back on the walls Talladega AL.
Yeah. Used to be Talladega USA.
Talladega USA's in the tribal now.
That's true.
Bring back the Talladega AL logo with a gold star at the end of it.
Yeah.
That's out of all the time, that's my favorite wall logo right there.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see how the track looks, because again, they just started that process. So we'll see how the track looks when it comes to race weekend. And unfortunately, we got to take a break here. When we come back, I want to talk about big change coming to one of NASCAR's big radio networks. And it's not going to happen this year, but it's coming at the end of this year. So we'll talk about it when we come back, and we'll turn our attention to NHRA. Hey, records got set. Just, last night?
12 hours ago.
Talk about it coming up right after this break on CRN. There's two major broadcasting companies that cover NASCAR races. One is the Heritage Motor Racing Network. It's kind of co-owned by NASCAR because it was started by Big Bill France. The other one is the Performance Racing Network, or PRN. They're covering all the races at the tracks owned by SMI. Plus, they have a cooperative deal where they help out on the Brickyard 400 with IMS Radio Network, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But one of their stalwarts, lead anchor Doug Rice, dropped a bombshell on Monday of this week. This is going to be his final year. We got a picture of Rice on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of PRN. Rice has grown up around this. Is a native of Asheville, North Carolina, grew up around racing, but developed his love of radio by listening to Atlanta Braves Kings coverage as a kid. Now, Doug Rice and I are, give or take, about the same age. I'm in my mid-50s. Doug Rice, just a little bit older. I remember when the Atlanta Braves stunk on ice.
And then some.
I remember when there was a bumper sticker floating around Atlanta that said, "Go Braves and take the Falcons with you."
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But he was listening because he noted that the announcers, because the team wasn't entertaining, the announcers had to be. And he developed his love of radio that way. He started his own radio career in Salisbury, North Carolina, mostly as a board operator for ball games, races, and other sports coverage, and at the same time was getting on the air at his alma mater, Appalachian State University, noting he was a classic rock DJ for the most part. Upon graduation, he started working for the Capital Radio Network in North Carolina, was asked to help out on their coverage of the then Busch Series races at South Boston Speedway, where he began as a pit reporter before moving into the main booth. Said at that time, quote, "For a few years, Capital did most of the standalone Busch races that MRN did not cover, and it was a lot of fun. Mark Garrow, Steve Richards, Stephen Blevins, Harold Hamrick, and I riding around in a van going to places like South Boston, Orange County, Myrtle Beach, Oxford Plains, Volusia, and Hickory, and many other places that are now long forgotten." Well, in 1988, he joined PRN as the program and affiliate director, became the main anchor for their PRN broadcasts in 1992, and over the years has called over 200 Cup Series races. He's won several awards along the way, most notably 3 times what Matt and I are members of, the National Motorsports Press Association's Broadcaster of the Year. Matter of fact, he won it twice in a row. He's the 2-time defending NMPA Broadcaster of the Year, as it turns out. He called, for example, Jeff Gordon's first ever win in the Coca-Cola 600. He called Dale Jr.'s first wins in both the Xfinity and the Cup Series, which both happened at Texas Motor Speedway. He was the man on the mic for Tony Stewart's first Brickyard 400 win and Adam Petty's first ARCA win, among other notable races. He's also the only broadcaster to be able to pull off the double. Back in 2015, he called the Indy 500, and then with help from Shell, was flown from Charlotte to call that evening's Coca-Cola 600, and has helped build PRN into the major NASCAR broadcasting race coverage network that they are today. Doug, as it turns out, has missed out on one tentpole race in NASCAR, but that's about to change because by special invite of the rival Motor Racing Network, MRN, he's going to be in on this year's radio coverage call of the Daytona 500. Cool move.
Bravo, MRN.
Cool move, MRN.
Bravo.
Cool move. Love
Bravo.
it. So, Doug, dude, congratulations on a fantastic career. It's a career that people like Matt and I could only dream of having.
Rightfully earned.
Rightfully earned. And, dude, enjoy your final year, man. Enjoy it to its highest.
No doubt.
All right, to the NHRA. Last night they were kind of doing some preseason stuff, and this is all leading up to when we get to the Gator Nationals, which is coming up in about a little less than a month from now. And the very first Pep Boys NHRA All-Star Call-Out has its lineup set for the season opening event in Gainesville, Florida, again, the Gator Nationals. First one's going to highlight the Top Fuel division. 8 drivers who, based on their 2023 points finishes, will get to call out one of the others for a head-to-head match in a cash grab event. The drivers who will participate in seed order are Steve Torrance, Doug Coletta, Brittany Force, Mike Salinas, Justin Ashley, Leah Pruitt, we'll get back to that, Antron Brown, and Sean Langdon. Now, Austin Prock would have been eligible, but he has switched from Top Fuel to Funny Car for 2024, so Langdon takes over the spot that Austin Prock would have been in. As for Leah Pruitt, yeah, we talked about this on this show. She is stepping out of the Top Fuel ride in 2024 in place of her husband, Tony Stewart, because the pair has said, we're going to start on a family. And let's face it, the amount of G-forces and all the other things that a Top Fuel ride do,
that ain't
not conducive to being pregnant.
Nope.
But she is, at this time anyway, willing to participate in this chance to claim an extra $130,000. So as I mentioned in the seed order, Steve Torrence gets to choose whoever he wants. Let's say he chooses the 8 seed, Sean Langdon. And then you get 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, and 4 versus 5. The second round, the highest seed left then restarts that process. So if Steve Torrence survives into round number 2, he gets to call out whoever he wants to again.
Right.
Until you get to the finals.
I saw this happen.
$130,000.
I saw this happen in Indianapolis in 22, and this was fun to watch.
All the on-track action will happen earlier in the day. The call-out will be televised in somewhat edited form. March 9th, Fox Sports 1, that's Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time. So if you want to watch it, you can.
Mm-hmm.
All of this to say that last night, they were in Bradenton, Florida, again, starting to prepare for the 2024 season, and suddenly they started busting records.
Yeah, in Bradenton, it's kind of their, I guess you could say it's like the preseason event, if you want to call it that. Let me go here to exactly what the name of the whole deal is, because I even forgot for myself.
I want to say it's called Shootout.
It is the Flow Racing's got nothing but oh yeah, Pro Superstar Shootout.
There you go.
It's an invitational event only. And in Funny Car, I'm surprised this record's fell this time of the year in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But in Funny Car, Bob Tasca not only once, but twice absolutely annihilated the national all-time speed record. Not only for Funny Car, but for Top Fuel as well.
Yeah. And we've talked about this, how Funny Car and Top Fuel is considered the ultimate top tier of even the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, as they're calling it this year.
Sure, Top Fuel is the Cup Series.
But Funny Car goes as fast, if not a tick faster on a lot of occasions, to what the Top Fuel rides will go. So don't sleep on Funny Car. They're fast. They're real fast.
They're very fast. Just the national records right here for the top series is right now. Elapsed time, Top Fuel, 3.62.
Okay.
Top Fuel, national speed record, 338.94.
That's solid.
All right. Until last night, Funny Car, elapsed time, 3.79.
Okay.
Funny Car top speed, 339.87.
So while the elapsed time was a tick slower, the
speed record
was
got
quicker.
Destroyed. Not only once, but twice, eclipsing 340. With the official record coming in the second run of 341.68, almost 342.
You showed me video of this, which we can't show here because we don't have the rights to. But he showed me video of this before we went on the air. There's a couple of things going on. There's part of me that wants to say Bradenton might have just been repaved.
I couldn't tell by the video.
But this happened at night, under the lights, which means...
In Florida.
Yeah, which means you don't have the sun beating down on the track, making the track all greasy.
Ton of grip.
That helps. But it don't matter. Either way, 341 plus. Ooh, Bob Tasca. Knock it out, man.
And I'll say this right here. Hopefully at some point this year, maybe, because I have an extremely close connection to Bob Tasca, personally. I'm going to see if we can't get him on.
Love it.
I'm going to take a shot at it.
Yeah, love to talk to him about that particular move. That's great. Turning our attention to America's Open Wheel Series, IndyCar's collaboration with the CW Network on the event series, 100 Days to Indy, was such a success last year. They're going to start streaming it around the world here within the next couple of days. Season 1 and Season 2 is confirmed as a go. On Monday, they announced it officially. We've got the promo card of it up on CRN Live on YouTube right now, courtesy of the CW Network. Like Season 1, it'll be in 6 parts. It'll detail the very end of the 2023 season, go through the off-season, or the non-racing season, as some people have now started to call it, and then all the races leading up to the Indy 500. The 2024 IndyCar season will get rolling March 10th with the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Then they'll head out to California for their all-star event, what they're calling the $1 Million Challenge at the Thermal Club, before heading down to run the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, and then that'll be followed to a trip to our own backyard right here in Alabama for the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix before the final race leading up to the Indy 500. That's the Sancio Grand Prix on the Indy Road Course. Now, if you're coming to Alabama for the race here at Barber,
who knows?
You might hear a voice that sounds a lot like mine, because thank you to Zoom Motorsports. And no, this doesn't take anything away from Talladega. As I told Russell Branham the first time I got seconded to go to Darlington.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them at Darlington, and I told it right in front of Russell. I said, you need me for anything here at Darlington, you got me, unless they need me at Talladega. Talladega's the week before Barber. So Monday after Children's, I've got the day off. I've already requested it. And I kind of get the funny feeling I'm going to need it. I'm just saying.
Probably so.
Because this voice going to be tired. Either way, year 2 of 100 Days to Indy, produced by Penske Entertainment. They own, of course, the IndyCar series in Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Emmy-winning executive producers Patrick Demon and Adam Marinelli are in charge. This eliminates last year when they co-produced it with Vice Media, who has been going through severe financial problems. So this looks like it's pretty much all Penske Entertainment now. And this, again, this is all part of the CW network in their building of their own sports division, which now includes Live Golf, ACC football and basketball. It's ACC basketball that's got John not here. And beginning next year, we talked about it, NASCAR's Xfinity Series. They're also the new home of Inside the NFL. I grew up watching Inside the NFL when it was on HBO. It's not quite the same now, but I still love it. So, yeah, good job on the CW. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this. Mm-hmm. Speaking of the Indy 500, 2021 Cup Series champion Kyle Larson began his practice schedule for it as he prepares to run the double Memorial Day weekend. After his 5th-place finish in the Busch Light Clash, he flew out to Phoenix, got a test in the number 17 Hendrick Motorsports Arrow McLaren entry. Tony Kanaan, the sporting director for Arrow McLaren and an Indy 500 winner himself, was on hand to coach Larson for the finer points of the IndyCar entry. It's not a bad coach.
No.
Larson, now 31, passed the Indy 500 orientation test late last year, completing the 3-phase initiation with a fast lap of 2:17.898. While that met the expectations of the IndyCar officials, he needs to be about 15 or so miles per hour faster to be competitive enough to make the 33-car Indy 500 field. Larson said after day 1 of testing, quote, just more studying and stuff behind the screen of a computer, it should be okay, I think. Our Cup team hopefully will be in a good spot where we're fast and all that. You're not stressing about that as much as you need to, but I want to do a good job here, so it's definitely going to take a lot to focus on the IndyCar side and do a good job there. I'm confident I'm going to get all the data and information to study with, and all of those extra laps will help me come to the month of May and help it go smooth. After day 2 of testing, Kyle Larson said, I'm getting myself more and more uncomfortable behind the wheel, and that's a good thing, which means he's finding that speed that he needs to get above 330 to kind of ensure that he's going to make that 33-car field. Because it's going to take a couple of laps at least north of 330 for him to make the Indy 500 field.
230.
Sorry, 230.
If it's 330, he's on the pole by
a long shot.
Mile.
Yeah. In fact, he's competing in the NHRA. Yeah. He's going to have to be north of 230 to make that IndyCar field for the Indy 500. Which, again, this is Arrow McLaren and it's Hendrick. I got a hard time betting against him making the field.
Yeah.
Real hard time betting against him making this field. So we'll see where
I
it goes.
guarantee you he'll have the A car out of Arrow McLaren.
Oh, God, yeah. And with all the help that they can possibly get from Hendrick, whatever help Hendrick is able to give them, considering Hendrick is not really an IndyCar operation.
Yeah.
When we come back, the second bit of news about Iowa Speedway related to their IndyCar weekend. We'll get to that. And we're going to talk the upcoming hybrid system before we turn our attention to us burying the lead. Arguably the biggest news story of the week. What's coming out of Red Bull? Ooh.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
The all-new Oxford Flooring and Design Studio is
Racing Network.
We are back, and one final segment on this weekend's show left. Let's see how much we can get to. Let's start off with officials at Iowa Speedway finalizing the concert lineup for their Hy-Vee IndyCar weekend, the race weekend coming up on July 12th, 13th, and 14th. Country star Luke Combs, pop artist Post Malone, they were already announced. They will be joined by two other country artists. They will be Kelsey Ballerini and Eric Church. Actual performance lineup starts Saturday the 13th. Luke Combs will be putting on a concert before Saturday's race, and then post-race it'll be Eric Church entertaining the crowd. Please perform Talladega. Sorry. Sunday, July 14th, Kelsey Ballerini will be on stage before the race hits the track, and then afterward, Post Malone has a planned 90-minute performance planned after, according to the track.
Is he... I care nothing about Post Malone.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you a Post Malone song if you played one right now.
But please, if you're going to sing one, sing I'm Gonna Miss Her by Brad Paisley.
Oh, there you go.
He did a remake of that at the CMT Award.
I didn't know that.
It was actually decent.
Okay. IndyCar still testing out the hybrid system. They still have plans to put them in after the Indy 500 this year. But they've been working with Honda. They've been working with Chevrolet. They seem confident the system can make that successful debut after the Indy 500. The main engine remains the same. Okay? 2.2-liter V6 twin turbos attached. Currently using a push-to-pass system. Using that system, it is said it tops out at about 725 to 750 horsepower. The hybrid system is said to add about 50 to 75 horsepower by itself. But series officials have now said that they plan to keep the push-to-pass system in addition to the hybrid, and state that the drivers will be able to use switches that will allow them to use the hybrid energy recovery system only, the push-to-pass option only, or to use both simultaneously. And in that configuration, the output is said to push upwards of 850 horsepower.
Can we use this in qualifying for the 500?
Please? I want to see 240. If it does bear out, by the way, it'll mark the first time that the American-based open wheel series will top 800 horses since the early 2000s, back when CART and Champ Car, when they were split, remember that, kids? Ask your parents. Got into a horsepower war. Firestone was asked about it. They're the official tire provider of the series. They said the 2024 tires will be able to handle that increase in power. Remember trading cards when you were a kid?
Yep.
They were pretty much all baseball. Had some football. I think I had a couple of basketball cards, but that was really it. Now Parkside Collectibles is working with IndyCar. They're going to introduce a lineup of trading cards similar to those that we were just talking about. The line officially launches on March the 1st. Could include chances for you to win some pretty exclusive merchandise, like an autographed Indy 500 helmet. It'll be a plain helmet with autographs from just about everybody who starts that race.
Nice.
Card sets will be up for sale at all tracks and at select retail card stores around the country, or you can go online, get them at parksidecards.com. I took a look. Pre-sale opportunities available right now. Price is set at about $10 per pack online. That's not including tax. And word is there's also going to be a chance to win a 4-pack of Indy 500 tickets, including a full race experience. Whatever that means. You're riding a 2-seater? Just saying.
Let's go.
Yeah. To Formula One here, and here's, like I said, probably burying the lead a little bit here. Red Bull Racing boss Christian Horner apparently under investigation by the team. Allegations of inappropriate behavior. What the heck does that mean? We'll get to it. A spokesperson for Horner, now 50 years old, said that he, quote, rejects these claims entirely, unquote. I'm shocked. But he didn't comment any further. Horner's led Red Bull to 6 Constructors' Cup titles, 7 total Drivers' Championships, including the past 3 with Max Verstappen. Red Bull released a statement which read, quote, after being made aware of certain recent allegations, the company launched an independent investigation. This process, which is already underway, is being carried out by an external specialist barrister. Think lawyer in European terms. The company takes these matters extremely seriously, and the investigation will be completed as soon as practically possible. It would not be appropriate to comment further at this time. Hearings in the case began yesterday as we go to air live on Saturday the 10th, so Friday the 9th. The allegation is coming from a Red Bull employee who claims that the inappropriate action was Horner was overly controlling to the point of saying what said employee, who was otherwise unidentified, could and could not even text out. While the hearings began, a decision was not made. Likely won't be released until next week sometime at some point, so we'll talk about it next week here on the show. Red Bull has said that they are taking the allegations, their words, extremely seriously, while Horner is patently denying everything being said about him. We do have reports coming out of German and Austrian sports media that are both claiming that this could be a threat to Horner's position, which he's held since 2005. They claim to the point where the organization is pressuring Horner to step down. Horner has said he has no intention of doing so. In other words, he is going to be either cleared of this or he'll get fired, is what it sounds like.
Sounds like to me is something with a bunch of he said, she said.
Pretty much. It's going to be hard to prove. It's a hard thing to prove.
It looks like.
So, but we'll keep you updated on it.
What it looks like.
The sister organization of Red Bull, which is the new Visa Cash App RB, or as most are shortening it to, and we will hear on this show as well, as soon as you get used to the fact that it is what it is, VCARB, Visa Cash App RB, VCARB. They showed off their 2024 look in a Las Vegas unveiling. You might ask Las Vegas. Matt's got some reasoning behind that, which we'll get to in a moment. First of all, pictures right now up on CRN Live on YouTube, thanks to the team's social media. It's a rather welcome departure, I'll say, from the overuse of bare carbon fiber by the other teams who've been showing off their looks up to now. Thursday, the team unveiled a car features a lot of royal blue with wide white striping over the nose cone and up over the driver cockpit on the front and rear wings where the Hugo Boss logo is placed, at least on the front wing. Over the engine cowl, you got the signature Bull logo of Red Bull, so there comes that again. There's also red stripe highlights as well. It's code-named because you got a brand new name of VCARB. It is code-named VCARB 01. Features the return of 2023 drivers Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda. The unveiling featured a performance by no less than Kendrick Lamar. Why Kendrick Lamar, you might ask? Well, why Las Vegas, you might ask? Matt can tell you why.
Well, considering that little football game known as the Super Bowl is in town.
Right too. That game's going on. I forgot about that.
There's a lot of sponsors in town and a lot of corporate people in town. And, you know, it's probably the reason why some of these teams are doing so. And one other one that did unveil, let him do his thing first.
No, go ahead. By all means.
No. When Alpine unveiled theirs,
yeah, which we'll get to in a minute.
They have two reasonably profiled, I'm not going to say high profile, I'm going to say reasonably profiled individuals that are investors in the team. Gentlemen by the name of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce.
You might have heard of them.
May have heard of them. They're playing in a little ball game there this weekend. They're playing with Kansas City Chiefs. Where did Alpine unveil their car? Las Vegas. Who's in town in Las Vegas? Mahomes and Kelce. Yeah. It's kind of explanatory because when he's doing one of his Super Bowl press conferences, Travis Kelce's wearing an Alpine hat. There you go.
Now we know why they were in Vegas.
Da-da.
Ferrari and U.S. energy drink Celsius formed a partnership last year that put their name on the Ferrari F1 cars for the 3 U.S.-based Formula One races, Miami, Texas, Vegas. Now, in the wake of signing Lewis Hamilton for next year, Celsius has a more intensive deal with the Heritage Italian team. There's a shock. It's a full global partnership that begins this year. The logo will adorn both the cars and both driver suits. Yeah, they're going to be on Carlos Sainz's suit this year. Next year, when Lewis Hamilton dons a Ferrari suit, he'll have it too. This is part of the company's plan to expand their product to ship it outside of the U.S. Initial plans are to put their product on sale in Canada, the United Kingdom, and Ireland first, and begin to expand out from there. Say putting it on the Ferrari car is not a bad start.
And with Monster Energy losing him too?
Because Monster Energy, from what we can tell, at least for now, is sticking with Mercedes.
Yep.
More F1 teams showing off their 2024 cars. Williams, we got a picture of this coming up here in a moment. They showed off on Monday, not the actual FW46 car, but at least the paint scheme it will sport, or livery if you're in Europe. Features a new primary sponsor, Komatsu, not to be mistaken for the new team boss over at Haas F1. This Komatsu is a Japanese heavy machine company. The look is really more evolution from 2023 than revolution, with the famed Williams blue on it, but limited to being over the top of the nose and along the side pods. You can kind of see how it looks right now on CRN Live on YouTube, thanks to Williams. The blue is going to be separated from the bare carbon fiber. There's that trend again over the rest of the body. by some red and white pinstriping. The cars will see the return of 2023 drivers Alex Albon, who, by the way, is a very hot property as we start looking towards 2025. Williams is saying they have him under contract. Alex Albon saying, not so fast, my friend, to borrow Lee Corso's phrase.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that all comes about. Plus, you got the American-born kid, Logan Sargent, going into year 2. They're hoping to build upon their 7th place result in the Constructors' Cup standing from last year. Williams, again, Albon says he's under contract with Albon through 2025. But again, Lewis Hamilton moving to Ferrari, I don't know. We'll see how that works out.
Yep.
Likely the biggest change so far from 2023 to 2024, but I guess it would kind of make sense that this would be the big change because it's also a big change in the name. Going from the title sponsor Alfa Romeo to the new deal with Stake, Sauber showed off a new car that looks like something out of The Riddler.
I think that's an understatement.
It's mainly black, or should I say bare carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber.
With neon green over the nose, front and rear wings, and a stripe over the engine cover. Very stark white Stake in cursive along the side pod and the engine cover. This deal, as we have noted, will last 2 years before Audi takes over as the main title sponsor of the organization. It was also noted that Stake, which is a European-based gambling platform, is actually not going to appear in its form. Like I said, that big white stark Stake logo on the side of that car, it will not appear on all races because some of the countries that Formula One goes to, gambling is verboten. Get that logo off that. Valtteri Bottas, Zhou Guan Yu back for the organization in 2024. Thanks to Sauber for the look at the car as seen on CRN Live on YouTube. Yeah, I'm sorry. That looks like the third Batman movie with Val Kilmer. That looks like something that Jim Carrey as the Riddler would have driven.
Yeah.
But I will say this. That will stand out.
Oh, yeah, it will.
That green will stand out.
No doubt.
Alpine then turned around, unveiled their 2024 look. As Matt noted in Vegas, showed off 2 different looks. We'll show you both side by side. Like most cars probably will be this season, again, large amounts of bare black carbon fiber showing, taking the signature pink of the major sponsor BWT and kind of relegating it down to the side pods, the front and rear wings. For the first 8 races of the year, there will also be pink highlights along the car, which you'll be able to see here in a moment. And then beginning in race 9, those pink highlights will revert to Alpine blue. There you go. The one on the left right there, thanks to Sky Sports for that particular side-by-side look. I mean, if I'm BWT, I mean, yeah, I get the look on the front and the rear wings and on the side pods, but I'm giving you a lot of money to put my signature pink color on the car, and I have been relegated to very small little areas with that signature color. I'm not sure I'm going to be thoroughly thrilled, especially at beginning with race 9, because that pink is now almost all gone.
Yeah. But if I've got to pick one of them, sitting side by side, overall color scheme that looks the best.
Yeah.
And I'm not going it because I'm partial to a certain number, but
yeah, you do like the number 10.
That 10 ball.
I'll tell you right now.
That 10 ball looks good with that blue.
One of my favorite colors, it's blue. I'm just going to be flat out honest with you right now.
Laser electric looking blue is sharp.
It is.
Oh, that pink on there.
Yep, it is. Alpine going to stick with their all-French driver lineup of Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly for a second season in a row. They claim that their A524 entry, that's their internal code for it, has been completely revised, their words, not mine, from their 2023 cars because they want to try and see their fortunes take an uptick. 2023 saw a whole lot of turbulent times over there. Their CEO, Laurent Rossi, left. Out the door went team boss Otmar Savnauer and sporting director Alan Permain and chief technical officer Pat Fry. So the whole front office pretty much gone from last year to this year. As far as the Alpine new team boss, Bruno Famine, he was brought in on an interim basis during 2023. Now he can claim that the interim tag has been removed. Joined the team in 2022 as their executive director of the engine division, then moved up quickly when the upheaval took place. He's said to have had a very big hand in the new for 2024 racers, which again, you just now see on CRN Live on YouTube. See. And then Formula One announced this as we get ready to wrap up this weekend show. Sprint weekend rundown. It's going to look a little different schedule-wise, and this is at the request of the teams and the drivers. This year, the sprint shootout will move back in some ways from Saturday to Friday, which will follow practice session number 1. The lineup for the sprint race will be set by the shootout. The sprint itself will again take place on Saturday morning, and then you'll get qualifying for that weekend's Grand Prix, as opposed to previous times when the sprint race used to set the lineup for the F1 big race. That's not happening anymore. They're two totally separate deals. You still get points if you finish in the top 8, but only if you finish in the top 8. Expect a final practice session also to happen on Sunday and the race on Saturday, and then the race on Sunday as usual. 2 other things agreed to in Monday's meetings. Pretty big stuff here. An increase in power unit allocations. You're going to go up from 3 to 4 per driver this season and next. And then we'll see what happens come 2026 when we get the new engine regulations. It was also agreed that the drag reduction system, or the DRS, that thing that opens up the rear wing flap, will also be engaged quicker this year. It'll be, instead of waiting for 2 laps after a start of the race or the restart, 1 lap after the start of the race, or 1 lap after the safety car period. They're hoping to close up and create tighter racing, is what they're hoping this will do.
Which they need to.
Yeah, because let's face it, we pretty much had Max Verstappen penciled in for every single race win last year. And we were right for, 20 of 23? 20 of 22, something like that?
Yep.
And this year is the last year of the current deal between Formula One and Silverstone Raceway in Britain, but Thursday they got a new deal signed. The British Grand Prix will remain at the heritage track that hosted Formula One's first ever race. This deal runs through at least 2034. The extension puts the race as the event with the longest confirmation, save for the Australian Grand Prix, the Bahrain Grand Prix, and we have yet to get to the Madrid-based Spanish Grand Prix. That contract will take place in 2036. All of them go past 2034. But yeah, so Silverstone remains the host of the British Grand Prix for the time being. And you know what? I don't have a problem with that.
Nope.
So there you go. We got to everything.
We did.
And we get to go racing this week.
Yep.
You know, once we get past that little football game tomorrow in Vegas. Y'all have a great week. Enjoy Wednesday's qualifying, Thursday's duels, Friday's Craftsman Truck Series race, and we'll talk again next Saturday right here
This has been
on CRN.
a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM
and W236 CQ 95.1 FM Anniston.
95